Hi, everybody, again. My name is Katya Makarov. So today I'm going to make this big screen so you can see what I'm going to talk about. But today we're going to go over the Polycom BVX 400 series phones. We are going to go over the following agenda. I want to make this clear just in case you want to ask about something before we get to it. I promise I'll go over all of the following. We'll go over first the anatomy, placing phone calls and using hold, transferring calls, three-way calling, setting up voicemail and accessing voicemail, call history, do not disturb, call forwarding, and then call parking. So kind of start with the most basic and move our way through. Jada, I'll leave this up to you. If you'd prefer for me to stop after each section and ask for questions, that's what I usually do, but I know some people say let's hold all questions to the end. So let me know what you guys would prefer. I will go with whichever works for you guys.
Just do whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, so with that, after the fact, I will be providing this recording, of course. I should also have a cheat sheet for the for the phone. It's like a 2-pager that helps you kind of do things like set up your voicemail quickly and so forth. So I can send that over to Jada and you guys after our call today. The recording takes a little bit to download, but I should have it by no later than end of day. And again, if you have any questions, I will probably just stop after each section. So feel free to take yourself off mute or ask questions how you like from there. So if there's any questions before we get started, let me know. Otherwise, we will start with the anatomy of the phone.
This is Jada just one more time. Tim sent us the 2-pager, and so everybody has it.
Okay, perfect.
Actually, we handed it out with their phones, and they also have a copy in the office right now.
Okay. And I think I hear someone in the background. If you just joined on, can you please make sure you put yourself on mute, please? Let's see. And if you need help on mute, I can always put you on mute as well, but either mute your computer or your phone just so there's no background noise. And thanks for letting me know that, Jada. I won't send it again unless you want it. The more the merrier, but let's see if I can hear it here. Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so we're going to get started here. Let me get my pointer out with the anatomy of the phone. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's a little zoomed out. So let me get a little bit closer here. Oh, went too far. So this is the anatomy of a Polycom BVX 400 series phones. I just want you to know on a regular basis, you do not have all of these little icons on your screen. Those icons are going to appear when you press the home button. So I'll come back to that a little later. I know a lot of people immediately say, I see these icons, where do they come from? They're not on my phone screen. They only show up if you press the home button. So to start at the very top right corner of your phone itself, there's a gray little speck that if you ever see blinking red is going to be your first visual indicator that you have a voicemail, which we'll talk about here shortly. On the phone screen itself, it is in color. It is not touchscreen, however. In the top left corner, you should see the time. In the top right corner, you should see the date, but you're also going to see some notifications there, meaning when you have a missed call or a new voicemail, you're going to get a little indicator there as well. On the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the screen, there are 6 line keys on both sides. Those line keys can help you move between calls. They can also be utilized as speed dials. This is optional, but if you're interested in that, please let me know. Basically, you can just press and hold the button down, input a name and a number, and going forward, you could use that line key as a speed dial if you'd prefer. Some people love speed dials, some people don't really care as much. Underneath the screen are 4 additional keys, and those are not programmable. Those are your soft keys. So soft keys are reactionary. Depending on what action you've just performed on your phone, you might see some different sets of options there, meaning when you're on an active call, you'll see a certain set of options. When you're not on an active call, you'll see a different set of options. So there'll be some examples of that as we move throughout today. As I mentioned before, the home button, the little house-looking button, will take you to things like call history, settings for your phone, etc. I'm going to talk about some highlights in there as we go throughout this PowerPoint. Since the screen is not touchscreen, this directional pad will be like the joystick of your phone. It's going to help you move up, down, left, and right. You can select by pressing in the center. Right below that are 3 keys that are all going to light up when in use. You have a headset button, a speakerphone button, and a mute button. So if you have a headset device that you would like to connect, we do have some recommendations. Jada, you probably might have asked Tim if you guys are interested in some that could work for you. I always get this question, I don't know why, but no, AirPods are not compatible with the phone. It's usually a more traditional headset you plug in the back. You can always utilize speakerphone here. And of course, you have the mute key. The mute key will light up red when in use, so that will be your visual indicator that you have enabled mute. Here in the center is just your dial pad, but below that is the volume key. If you're on an active call, it's going to make the volume of that call either louder or quieter. If you're not on an active call, it's going to make the ringer of your phone louder or quieter. So before we move into making calls and using hold, are there any questions on just the anatomy of the phone? Okay, so far so good. This is just a slide on some supported headsets.
One second. Sorry, we do have a question.
Okay.
Just said how to forward the phone.
Yeah. So how do you forward a call?
So I'll be going over forwarding closer to the end, but just to clarify, do you mean forwarding like setting up all your calls to forward, or do you mean like transferring?
So it's more of a transfer call to someone else questions than forwarding.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go over making calls and using hold, and then we'll move right into transferring, so then I can kind of clarify the different options you have there. You would press this transfer button, but I'll teach you the rest here shortly.
I have a quick question about the headsets that you
Yes.
just spoke. So can we use any USB headset? So like if we had just some Microsoft USB headsets, would they work for the phone?
You know, I would give you a definite yes or no, but I do have some people who occasionally do have issues with certain headsets, especially depending on the firmware on the phone. I always, for my opinion, say test it out and see if it gives you good call quality, but some might not be working as cleanly as others. These are the ones we recommend. I don't see Microsoft on there. I can get you in contact with Tim and our systems engineer to see if we have like a legitimate set of what will 100% will work, what 100% will not. But in my opinion, I always say test it out, see what it sounds like. If you're having issues with it, test out if a different one would work, but I can't tell you necessarily 100% that it would. Any other questions?
One more question here.
If I
Mhm.
someone calls and then I said hold and then I check if that person is over there, then I want to forward that. If I wanted to forward a call.
Yeah, I think it's a question about hold, but I think you're getting to hold later, right?
Yes, we're about to go into making calls and using hold.
Okay, sounds
Yep.
good. Okay, we're good to go.
Alrighty, so we're going to move into placing calls and using hold. So to place a phone call on this phone, all you need to do is either dial the 10-digit phone number, or if you're calling someone internally, just the extension. So you do not need to dial the numbers 9 or 7 first if you've ever done that in the past. And you don't even need to dial 1 for long distance. When I refer to long distance, I simply mean outside of your normal calling area. If I live in Arlington and I'm calling someone in California, I do not need to dial the number 1 before the 10 digits. If you dial 1, the call will still go through. If you dial 9 or 7 first, you're going to hear a busy tone. You may be confused because you've called that number a million times. So just note, no 9 or 7 are necessary, just the 10 digits or just the extension. I did have a question about this one, so I want to clarify. You can call numbers that start with the number 9 or 7. I just mean you don't need to add the number 9 before 10 additional digits of a phone number. You can make a call by using your handset, by using your headset, or by using your speakerphone button. So now we've made an active call. To put that call on hold, what you can do is just press this hold/resume key at the bottom left-hand corner of your phone. It looks like a little phone with a little pause symbol. When you have done that, the first thing you're going to notice is audibly, you do not hear anything on the other line. They will usually either hear whatever hold music you as a company have put on or just some generic elevator music. But you can also visibly tell you have that caller on hold. So when you press hold, if you really notice, it was green. When I press hold, this has changed a different color. It's a blue color. It says the word hold next to the caller ID, and there will be a teeny tiny pause symbol, as well as the line key that call was on will be blinking red. Normally, when the call is active, the line is green. So a few visual indicators as well. To take that call off of hold, you needed to step away to get some water, you want to take it off hold, you're simply going to press this hold/resume key a second time. You should then audibly hear that caller again. You shouldn't see the word hold. Line key is back green. You're good to continue. But a common question is, what happens if a second call comes in when I'm already on a call? If an incoming call comes in when you're already on one call, you should hear a call waiting tone play in your ear. It sounds like a set of a few beeps, beep, 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 and an incoming call window will take over your screen. So, since you're on one call already, you have a few options. If you need to pick up the second call, all you simply need to do is press the answer soft key that shows up in the bottom left-hand corner. This will automatically put your first caller on hold. So you don't actually need to press hold first and then answering. Answering a second, third, or fourth incoming call will put whatever active call you're currently on automatically on hold. So just let the caller know. However, maybe you see on the caller ID, it says spam, right? Or telemarketer. So maybe you want to reject the incoming call. You can press the reject button instead. It will send that call over to your voicemail after ringing still a few more times. So that's always an option. So the last thing before I ask for questions is moving between these calls. So I picked up the second call. Caller 1's now on hold, but I need to go back to that first call. I'm going to want to come in and press the hold/resume key. I have to put my second caller on hold first. Once I've done that, both calls will be on hold. You can actually select the call you want to go back to one of two ways. You can either A, use this directional pad and scroll up and down. As you scroll up and down, the line that you've selected will be highlighted in green to indicate green means go, green means you want to go back to this call. But you can also select the line key of which call you want to go back. So the line key lines up with this line item and that's the one you want to go back to, you can select that as well. After you select the line, you still need to press the resume button. Otherwise, just highlighting the line item won't simply bring that call back. So press the hold resume button, and you can then repeat that process to return to any call that's on hold. Some people ask me, what happens if I accidentally hang up on someone I have on hold? This isn't a challenge, but I will say it is pretty hard to do so. The reason being is you have to actually take someone off of hold in order to hang up on them, unless they hang up on you, of course, but it's a different story. So if I have 2 or 3 callers, I can hang up on one of them. It will not affect the other person I have on hold, just to be clear. So before we move into transferring calls, what questions do you have for me on making calls, using hold, or moving between calls?
Hi, so I have 3 questions, and if you can get to them fine. One, is there a conference call option? Two, I think you mentioned this, but I didn't catch it. Extensions, do we just dial the extension if we know it? And
Yes.
have a directory option again with this phone also?
Okay, so question one, we will go over conferencing after we go over transferring. So there is a conference option. It's just three-way calling, just to be clear. So I'll go over that too. B, yes, if you're calling someone internally, all you need to do is call by their extension. So you don't have to put all 10 digits in. And then three, the directory. So by default, most phones don't automatically come with a directory, but that is something that Tim can add on for you guys. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99.9% positive. So that is a function that you could add on, that yes, you could go in and search for the directory. But just to be upfront with you, the directory, when you search it, it's a little old school. You have to search for it. So say you're looking for somebody that has the first name that starts with Z, you would have to type the number 9 like 4 times. So if you're trying to quickly utilize a directory, it could take a little longer. It's kind of like old school texting. But yeah, you could add a directory. Maybe Tim already has unloaded, but if you guys haven't already talked about it, definitely talk to him after the call and see if that's something that could be supported for you guys. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move into transferring calls next. And there are 3 types of transferring that can work. So the first 2 major types of transferring is consultative and blind. Consultative is the type of transferring which allows you to speak to the person you're transferring to, aka a warm transfer. Blind transfer just automatically transfers you over without the option to speak to someone first, aka a cold transfer. So you can always do one or the other. Your phones are usually defaulted to one. That doesn't mean you can't do the other. It just means one is a little easier to conduct. The third type of transfer I'll talk about after these 2 is transferring directly to voicemail. So consultative transfer or warm transfer. To initiate this, you're going to start off on an active call, and you're going to press the transfer button. It's 2 little phones with an arrow in between, right on top of that envelope key. Once you press the transfer button, you've automatically put your first caller on hold. They're not going to hear you typing or whatever you're going to say to the second caller. Then you're going to dial the extension number or the 10-digit external number, and you're going to press send. You want to make sure to press send, and I'll talk about here in a moment why. Because once you do, you're going to hear it ringing that second party. So it rings and it rings. Second party picks up. Then you can introduce the call as needed and as candidly as you'd like, because the first person is on hold. They will not hear the said conversation. When you're ready to officially transfer it, all you need to do is press the transfer button a second and final time. This will automatically transfer the call over. I do have some people say, though, what happens if that second person says they can't take the call, or you hear it ringing and they don't pick up? Does it automatically go to voicemail? It does not. But I will talk about it here momentarily, how to transfer directly to voicemail. So I do want you to know, though, if for some reason in a consultative transfer, again, that second person says, no, I'm sorry, Jada, I don't have time right now to take this call, you can press the end call button. It will only hang up on that second person, the person you wanted to transfer to, not the person that's already on hold, just so you're aware. But before I get to transfer to voicemail, I'll talk about blind transfer. So blind transfer, this is the one where you just automatically transfer to someone. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can either press and hold the transfer button down for around 2 or 3 seconds. It will switch the transfer type to blind. Or you can press this transfer button, and then the soft key should pop up on your screen that says blind. You press the blind soft key, it will also change the transfer type. So either works. Once you know blind has been selected, you'll just dial in the extension or external number and then you'll just press send. You should not hear any ringing on your end. You can comfortably put down your handset or hang up the speakerphone or put down your headset, and you can then make another call and so on. In a blind transfer, if the second caller does not pick up or defers the call to voicemail, that's okay. The call will end up in voicemail automatically. One thing I do want to bring up, maybe they've already brought it up to you, but I want to bring it up again. If you have a preference to one or another transfer type, that's completely fine. But in a blind transfer, the caller ID should show up correctly. Meaning if I call Jada and Jada transfers me over to John Smith and she does a blind transfer, John Smith would see my number, the number of who is being transferred, not Jada's number, who is transferring. I know for some people this is really important. Some people don't go by their call history as much. But if you have a preference to warm transfer, just be aware that the call history log does look like maybe, let's see, sorry to pick on you, Jada. If Jada's transferring the call, it's going to always look like her number is coming through, even though it might be a customer or a client. So that's just what happens in a warm transfer versus a blind. But before I open up for all questions, the last type of transfer I mentioned is transferring directly to voicemail. This is internal only, so I cannot transfer to someone's cell phone's voicemail box or home phone voicemail. How this works, whether I start off a transfer straight here or maybe I quit out of a warm transfer by pressing end call, person 1 is still on hold, well, I press the transfer button again, I dial in the star key twice, so star, star, and I type in my colleague's extension number only. So the extension number only for me is 9155. My colleague will dial star, star, 9155. When they press the send button, it will directly transfer into my voicemail box. So before we go into three-way calling or conferencing, what questions do you have for me on transferring calls? Okay, so if there are no questions.
One, sorry, 1 second here.
No, it's fine.
Hi, sorry, just clarification on, I guess you were saying it was blind transfer, where it'll show up as the outside individual's number. Would that say anything like external, or would it just be their number in general?
It should say their number and their name.
Okay, because right now the way we have it is if an outside number is being transferred, it does like show up as external, whereas if like someone's just calling me directly external, it won't actually say that. So there is still some distinction, but I guess what I'm hearing is that we won't have that.
So it won't show you, it would just, I guess, show like the caller ID in general. So whether it be internal or external, it would show, so like me, I'm external, obviously. I call you guys, the front desk transfers me to one of you guys. You would see my number. You wouldn't see that it says front desk is transferring Katya Makaroff, and this is her number. Whether it be internal or external, it should show the number of who is transferring. Avoiding, hopefully, I'm sure you guys are not as laid back. Maybe I have some, fast food customers, things like that. They're like, yeah, if we don't do a blind transfer, we often pick up a client's call and realize, I'm a little more casual than I would be if it was with a coworker. So it should still show the actual number, but yeah, it won't show who transferred the call along with the transfer person's number.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions on transferring in general? Okay. So we'll move into three-way calling next. So three-way calling on this device will just be that, 2 callers and yourself. So to set this up, you can do it one of 2 ways. So I'll talk about kind of the legit way. I'll talk about a shortcut you can use as well. So if you're on an active call, you should see the word conference as a soft key. Just to be clear, the conference button is not a physical button. It is a soft key option. So once you're on an active call, you should see conference. If you don't, and you see a button that says more, press more and then press conference. Once you press conference, caller 1 is put on hold automatically. Then you can dial the number of the third party you'd like to add and press send. It can be internal or external. Then person 2 is called. They pick up. You can introduce the call as needed, but when you are ready to officially conference it together, you will press the conference button a second and final time. So step 1, press conference. Step 2, dial the number. Step 3, press send. And step 4 would be introduce the call and press conference again. It will connect the two parties with yourself. Another way you can do it, though, is say I'm on a call with Tim and John Smith calls me. And I pick up John Smith's call. It puts Tim on hold. And I decide, wow, this is great. I need to do a three-way call. Let me initiate it. Since I already have both parties on the line, I will see a soft key at the bottom that says the word join. If I press that join button, it will automatically join the two callers in together to a three-way call as well. This will only work if you have one active call and one person on hold. So if you have 4 people on hold, it's not going to make a 5-way call, unfortunately, but it will initiate a 3-way call if you have one active caller and one person on hold. So are there any questions on 3-way calling? Okay, so next we're going to go into voicemail and voicemail setup. Following with that, we'll go into call history and things like that. So voicemail. Jaden Group, have you guys already set up your voicemail? Just so I don't drone on too much, but I'm more than happy to if need be. Let me know if you have or haven't. So before you even get, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So to see you even have a voicemail, red flashing light at the top right corner of your phone itself, as well as a little indicator here at the top right corner of your screen. So to check voicemail, what you want to do is press this little envelope button here at the bottom left-hand corner. Another way to get to it is, yes, you can press the home button and there's also a route there. But you can just press the messages key. You might see something on your screen pop up that says message center. I always say press connect or press select and then press connect. You'll enter straight into your voicemail. But what you have to do first is an automated voice will ask you, okay, dial in a default passcode. Your default passcode is just 1234 with a pound symbol afterwards to confirm it. You type that passcode in, and if you want to change it, you have the ability, but you don't necessarily need to do it at first. So you typed in that passcode, you have 3 options you'll hear. Pressing 1 for new messages, 2 for saved messages, and 4 for mailbox options. The first 2 are pretty self-explanatory, but if you want to listen to something new, press 1. If you want to listen to something you've already saved, press 2. And to do anything like change your voicemail pin or change your greeting, you'll press 4. You'll then hear the following submenu. So you have 4 options for greetings: unavailable, busy, name, and out of office. It's not on my screen, but option 5 will allow you to change your voicemail pin. So that's where you can go in and change it if you would like. But the greetings. Unavailable. This will play when you completely miss a call. You've stepped away from your desk, you left for the day, you're in the restroom, you're at the water station, and you miss a call. Your unavailable greeting would play. Busy greeting instead is going to play when you completely miss, when you're on a call and you defer that second call to voicemail. Meaning I'm on a call with Tim, a really not important call comes in, and I say, my call with Tim right now is too important, and I press reject, right? It gives off a busy signal. A different greeting would play. So if I record an unavailable greeting, but I reject an incoming call, a busy greeting will play instead. So you, in order to have, greeting at all time, I recommend recording both. A lot of people say, which one is my default greeting? That's really dependent on how you use your phone. I personally miss my calls at the wrong time. So my unavailable greeting takes precedent. But if I'm on the phone most of the day and I just reject incoming calls, I have customers who say, I've never rejected an incoming call. That's great. But if you reject incoming calls, your busy greeting might play more often. So you can go in and record both. You can record one or the other. You can record neither and just come in and record your name. That will just play your first and last name, and then go from there. Out of office greeting is a little less commonly used. This is like a temporary greeting. Maybe I know I'm getting surgery in a few weeks and I want to put up a different greeting for that time. You can go in and record that greeting. It will be able to be switched on or off. This is not one necessarily needed in order for setup. I myself have maybe used it once, but you're more than welcome to. If you don't record any greetings, it's just going to play that generic, the call you've reached is unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone. So, what questions do you have for me on voicemail setup and voicemails in general? Okay, no questions? Awesome. Okay, so we'll go into call history next. So call history, also 2 ways to do this. I'll teach you the long way and I'll teach you the more fun way. So the long way, if I want to see all of my call history at once, I'm going to press this home button here. I'm going to scroll over to directories with my directional pad. My screen isn't touch screen, so I have to scroll over. It looks like an open book. Once I do that, I'm going to scroll down to recent calls, which is second in the list, and press select. And then from there, I'll have a list of all of my recent phone calls on display. There will be a symbol indicating on the left what type of call it is. In the middle will be the caller ID name and number, and on the right-hand side will be the timestamp of when that call came in. It will hold about 60 line items. As you scroll up and down, you can highlight a line item and press dial. It will redial that caller. Info will show you little more info and will allow you to either save a caller's info or delete that line item altogether. Type will show you what type of call it was. So I'll show you that in a second. But another way to also kind of look at your call history I mentioned. Maybe I just want to see the last call I missed. I can use this directional pad and press the down button. That will show me just a list of 20 missed calls. And that will help me clear out the missed call notification and quickly view that information. On the right-hand side, if I press this arrow, it's going to give me just a list of my 20 most recent placed calls. And the left button will give me 20 most recent received calls. So from there, that little symbol I indicated, just so you know what it means. If you see next to that caller ID a blue circle with the arrow going up and to the right, it's a call that you placed. Green circle with the arrow going down and to the left is a call you received. And anything with a red circle and an X is, of course, a call that you missed. Any questions on call history before we move into Do Not Disturb? Okay. So Do Not Disturb, or D&D, this is a soft key that lives on all phones that will send a call directly to voicemail without ringing your phone. This is something that you can only turn on when you're not on an active call. I often get people ask me, can I turn on Do Not Disturb when I'm already on a call? Unfortunately, you can't. You have to wait to finish that call and then you can enable it. But to turn it on, you press the D&D key once. All calls will straight go to voicemail. And it will play the busy greeting at that time. So to turn it off, you press D&D once. To turn it on, you press D&D once. To turn it off, you press D&D again. To check on your phone screen, if you've just turned this on or turned this off, you want to look at the top right corner and the top left corner where your little phone number is listed. If you see a red circle with a minus sign, that does indicate you are on Do Not Disturb. So you want to press D&D again because ultimately you want to see a green check mark, meaning you're good to go. Any questions on Do Not Disturb? Okay, so we're going to move into call forwarding next. We're getting close to the end. I hope I haven't put anyone to sleep with the PowerPoint. So to set up call forwarding, and I'll talk about what options are available to you. You're going to press the forward soft key at the bottom of your phone. Then you'll have 3 options available to you. Call forwarding always. This means all of your calls automatically will forward to this number and all your voicemails. Call forwarding no answer. This might be the one I think you guys might be most interested in, if I'm correct. But this one would basically ring your desk phone and then ring maybe your cell phone or a different phone. But basically it rings you for a few times first at your desk, and then it can ring somewhere else if you don't pick up at your desk phone. And call forwarding busy will ring at a different device. If, say, you're already on one call on your phone, it would then roll over to a different phone. So you're going to scroll with your directional pad of which forwarding you want. You can set up a no answer and a busy. You cannot set up all 3. Call forwarding will always take precedent, just to be aware of that. So you will select which one you're interested in. Then, of course, it's going to ask you what number you want to forward it to. If it's your cell phone, type those 10 digits in. If it's an extension number of a coworker who's taking your calls while you're out, maybe you guys have nicer coworkers than I do, great, put in that extension. But you will type in those 10 digits or that extension number. If you are doing call forwarding no answer, it doesn't show up on my screen here, but if you do that option, you can indicate how many rings you want it to ring first at your desk before it rolls over. The system default is 9. I'm going to tell you that is very long. I advise, this is just a recommendation, between 3 or 4, because always think of it as the number you select plus 1. But if you would like to keep it at 9, feel free. But underneath the number part will be like how many times it should ring. Feel free to change that, make it less than 9, make it more than 9 if you want. That's up to you. Just know that the default is 9, and I have had people say the caller will hang up by the time it forwards, right? Because it's going to ring for a while. After you do that, you are going to simply press the enable button. That will be on. How to visibly check on your phone that you've set this up, in that notification center in the top right corner, so I'm going back a little bit, you will see FWD and that number it's forwarded to, as well as you'll see a little bouncing notification by your phone number to indicate you are on call forwarding. To turn off call forwarding, you're going to come the same way through that you went in. You'll see whichever one says enabled, you'll select it, and instead of the button that says enable, you will press disable to turn that service off. So what questions do you have for me on call forwarding before we go into our last topic, which is just going to be call parking? Okay. So,
forwarding is, can you set this up from a outside landline or from a cell phone?
You mean like, could I call from my home phone and set up call forwarding?
Yeah.
I
but I really need my calls forwarded to my cell phone. Could I do it from a different phone?
I don't think you could. From my knowledge, you wouldn't be able to call into a number and set up forwarding. You can remotely check your voicemail from another phone, but I'll double check from my cheat sheet to see. But from my knowledge, my answer tentatively will be no. So when I send you the call with a recording here, like the email here soon, I'll double check on that and confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So from there, I'm going to move into the last topic, which will be call parking. You've almost sat through the whole PowerPoint. So call parking, for anyone out there who might not be aware of what it is, if you are aware, great, you're ahead of the game. But call parking is like putting a call in a visual parking spot, or a virtual parking spot more so, and, you know, having it parked there for someone else to pick it up, or for you to pick it up on a different phone. So how this will work. I pick up a call, and I'm going to use a silly example. I pick up a call. I want to, you know, park it so I can pick it up from another phone in the office, right? Maybe I sit in a very loud spot and it's a very private call. So I want to make sure I go into a conference room or something like that. I'll park the call instead of transferring it, because maybe I don't know what conference room phone is available, right? Maybe somebody's in there, maybe someone isn't. So I'm going to park it. How I initiate this, I press the transfer button, those two little phones with the arrow in between. And then when it asks me to type in a number, I'm going to type in *103. This portion will never change. Once I do that, I don't want to hang up my handset. An automated voice will start playing in my ear or my headset, and it will say, call is parked on line 1 or line 2. It will be a digit between the numbers 1 to the numbers 100. So people are like, well, what phone is it, right? I don't know anyone extension 100. It's not coinciding with a actual phone. It's coinciding with a virtual parking spot. So she might always say line 1. She might say line 5 one time. Who knows? But it could be a number between line 1 and line 100. So if you are the one picking up the call, you want to remember that line. If you are not, if you have a colleague that's going to be picking it up, email them, go talk to them, call them, whatever you need to do. Let them know what that parking number is. So let's say 1. Then you or that person, whoever's picking it up, goes to a different phone in your office, dials. You just want to type this into your phone. You don't have to press transfer or anything like that. Just type in *104 that 1-digit line the automated voice told you. So if she said the number 1, the number 1. She said the number 2, the number 2, and so on. So *104 that 1-digit number. When you call that number, you're going to hear that call bounce from here to that second phone, and you can continue that conversation, for my example, in the more private area. So you do need to know this number, and you do need to know this little star code that should be on the cheat sheet. Some people say, well, what happens if I don't pick, like, how long will that call be parked? So it doesn't say parked forever. After, I think it's 2 minutes, it will ring back here. It doesn't mean it's lost or anything like that. It's just like reminding you, like, hey, no one's picked me up yet. Do you want to repark me, or should I just go back on park? So if you're by the phone, great. You can pick it up, repark it. Otherwise, it will still stay parked. So this is something, and this is just my opinion, I highly advise give a test run once or twice before you park a really important call and potentially, you know, get flustered. I would hate for that to happen. But yes, the major thing is to remember this number the system told you, and then either you yourself pick it up somewhere else or the other person pick it up. So what questions do you have for me on call parking or on anything else on the system here today before I just open up the floor for all questions in general?
Yeah, we have a question. How do you check your messages from the outside, if that's possible, like from home, for example?
Great question. So the major way to do it would be, and I don't know, not to confuse you guys, but do you guys do voicemail to email or no? I don't know if you guys do off the top of my head.
I think we do, or we have in the past at least.
Okay, so there will be 2 options. So if you don't do voicemail to email, which I'll talk about what it means here in a moment, you can call your office phone number, right? So you have to have a direct phone number. You call your office phone number. You let it ring until you hear your voicemail start to play. When you hear the voicemail start to play, you're going to press the star code, like the little star button on your cell phone or your home phone, wherever. Press the star code right away. The minute you hear the caller you've reached, you press that star button. You're then going to hear that automated voice ask you for your voicemail PIN. If it's still 1234, type that in. If you've changed it, great. Type in whatever your passcode is, and then you'll have access to your voicemail from that phone. So you just need to remember your office phone number, remember your voicemail passcode, and just press star when you hear your voicemail greeting start to play. If you also have voicemail to email, and this is something that could or could not be set up from the admin side, it's up to you guys. You can also potentially get a carbon copy of your voicemail as an email. It's like a WAV file that gets emailed to you. That's another way that I say sometimes is an easy way to check your voicemail remotely, because as long as you have access to email, you could check it. But some people utilize it, some people may not. So as a rule of thumb, you can always call your desk phone and check it that way, or you may be able to also check it via email. Any other questions for me here today on the physical desk phones before I let you guys go enjoy the rest of your afternoon?
Hi there, I have a question. What about people who have multiple voicemail boxes? I know I have one that I actually monitor a different voicemail box that's not my personal one. Would I just be able to enter the passcode and choose between the two?
So if you have multiple voicemails you have access to, it depends on what it's connected to, like a call group or something like that. If it's just like a virtual mailbox, they could set it up on the back end to just go to email as well. Or you could say call that phone number or that extension number internally, and then press the star code and put in that PIN, which unless someone's changed it, is usually also 1234. So you could do it that way. It kind of depends. I can look on your admin side a little later and see if I see a certain way they've set it up to. I've even heard that sometimes like you'll have two lines on your phone. One will be your normal line. The second line will just be like a virtual mailbox. And you would just select that line key, put in the PIN for that one, and check that too.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Hi. Can you set up a group list? Like currently, I have several lists that I could set up where I can send like one voicemail message to the 3 managers, or I could send a voicemail message to all of the program councils. So we will still have that availability.
From my knowledge, I don't think we have something like a group list. I know that you can forward voicemails from the physical phone by a certain key code, but I don't think that it can forward to a group of people automatically.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I mean, if one way that you could somewhat still do that is if, say, you guys did utilize voicemail to email, you could just forward that email to maybe the distribution of people, but manually from the desk phone, I don't think you can. Any other questions for me today? Alrighty, well, if there are no questions right now, I'm going to thank you guys again for joining me this afternoon on phone training. If you guys have any questions that pop up a little later, Jaden Group, please feel free to send me an email my way. I'm more than happy to assist with that. If you have any other questions in general, always let me know. But thank you guys again for joining. I will be downloading this recording and sending it over to you probably within the next 15 or 20 tops. And if you have any questions, any concerns, please feel free to reach out. But thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you so much.